Hello, West Essex, and welcome back to SportsKnight Radio. I'm your host, Paul Gustafson, joined today, as always, by
Curran Stogie, doing great, doing sublime, doing spectacular. I don't know.
Sublime.
Sublime. That's a word.
Can I get a definition?
It's like peachy keen. I don't know. It's peachy keen.
Who?
I'm peachy keen today.
Okay. Curran is peachy keen, and very busy times in sports right now. A whole lot of headlines going on, a whole lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it. One of the main stories right now going around all of sports and obviously just the NFL is Deshaun Watson, a fantastic quarterback who led the league in passing yards this year, who wants out of Houston. I don't agree that he wants out, but he does want out. So there's a lot of good teams that'll be a good fit for him. So me and Curran, we're going to give each other a couple squads, and we're going to decide, we're going to rate the fit pretty much. So Curran, my first team that I want to ask you about for Deshaun Watson is the Denver Broncos.
Really?
Yeah.
What would the Broncos give? I mean, the Houston Texans would probably not. Why the Broncos?
The Broncos, because they obviously need a quarterback. They got some good young players on offense, great young receivers, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Noah Fant is a great tight end. You got Melvin Gordon, Phillip. They're a young team, young up-and-coming team who needs a quarterback. So I personally think it would be a good fit, but so you're not a fan of it?
No, I don't think that's working for it. I think there are some. I don't like the Broncos simply for the fact that they just. It's a weird roster because the defense is old and aging. Aside from Justin Simmons is a free agent though, so they might lose him. Von Miller's going to retire. He's either going to retire or leave. His contract is out in a few years, and I don't really like the team. It's in a weird it's one of those teams where they don't have a particularly bright future, but the future isn't necessarily bad. That's why I don't really like the fit there. I don't think it's a good fit. I mean, obviously it's still in the AFC too, so they're gonna have to play them potentially. I don't know. I don't really like that fit. All right, I'll go. We'll send him to the NFC. We'll send him to the Washington football team. I like this fit, seeing as one. I mean, Ron Rivera is a defensive head coach, but they're going to have a really good defense. So Watson isn't going to be asked to come back to score 30 points a game to win. The defense with Chase Young, with Tez Sweat, with Kendall Fuller, with Ryan Kerrigan, the entire team, it's a good team. He has a good offensive line. They're graded pretty well PFF wise, and they're not too shabby in the run game. They have McLaurin, and they're gonna have they have a good organizational structure, and I think he'll fit perfectly there.
Let's say yeah. I rate the fit. I like, because I think part of the reason he wants out of Houston is the way they handled the DeAndre Hopkins situation, trading away his number one receiver. So I think he'd be very happy to get another pretty good number one in Terry McLaurin. And yeah, they need a quarterback. They could trade some draft picks and good defense there. So yeah, I like that fit. I like that fit for Deshaun Watson. Next up I got for you, this was a trade rumored. I heard about it maybe a couple weeks back with the Miami Dolphins. It would include, Tua and a pick for Watson. What do you think about a Deshaun Watson on the Dolphins fit?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think that's a pretty good fit. I mean, you got your coach. It's basically kind of what I touched about before with the football team. They both have really good defenses, so Watson isn't going to be asked to do a lot in terms of scoring 30 points a game and still losing. And they have Parker. They have some decent weapons. They have really good picks. They have a lot of draft capital, so they'd be able to assemble a very good package and not have to trade away some of the main playmakers on their roster, which is always helpful. And I like their organizational structure, and I think it's top down to bottom pretty good. I guess by your lot, then going ahead, I am gonna pitch out the Jets, the New York Jets. The Jets hired Robert Saleh, one of the guys that Watson was pushing for to at least be interviewed by the Texans. I don't think he was. I think they were one of the only teams to not interview Saleh and the enemy. But so that one, you have the head coach. You have Joe Douglas is a pretty good GM. You have a franchise left tackle in Mike Becton. You have a guy that looks like he could be a pretty good playmaker on the outside in why am I blanking on
Mims?
Mims? Yeah. The defense, the talent is pretty good. You have Quentin Williams, who's a pretty good pass rusher, and Marcus May. So I kind of like the team. There's a lot that needs to be work, and obviously they wouldn't be instant Super Bowl contenders. But by trading him away, the Texans will get the number 2 pick most likely, and they'll be able to send him to a team that's not necessarily that great, so they won't necessarily dominate them.
Yeah. I'm personally not a fan because I feel that with the Jets, the situation's if not the same, worse than the situation with the Texans. I mean, obviously, you got the new head coach Robert Saleh coming in. That he could be a nice, culture changing head coach. But other than that, that organization has been pretty dysfunctional recently. It's not a very talented roster, and like you said, a lot of work would need to be done there for at least Watson to be happy. So I personally don't like the fit. Last team I want to touch up on, the last fit for Deshaun Watson, is the New England Patriots. Going in, filling those shoes that Tom Brady has left after being with that organization for so long. We saw them struggle at quarterback last year. So to get another superstar at quarterback in Deshaun Watson, what do we think of the fit?
Yeah, I mean the Patriots don't draft playmakers. They just don't. I mean, they haven't drafted a guy who's come in and absolutely destroyed people. They missed on Sony Michel and N'Keal Harry. So I think drafting a quarterback to be a playmaker is pretty good. So I like that. I think that makes sense. And obviously he'd be getting Belichick, which would be cool for him too. I guess you would need there's still more work to be done, but it's not a bad thing to see Watson and Brady and Belichick together. But now since you pitched the Patriots, I was thinking of that. I'm gonna get a little spicy here. We're gonna get a little creative. So what I was thinking about teams that need quarterbacks or have quarterbacks that aren't necessarily that great. Or I'm going to completely throw that out of the window and go buck wild here. What we're going to do is we are going to swap the Texas quarterbacks. We are going to swap Dak Prescott, tag and trade him for Deshaun Watson, and probably send some picks over. I love the fit on offense. I think Dak I think I have him at the 5th quarterback. I think it's a slight upgrade because I think Watson's probably 4, top 5. I mean, they're both top 5, but I think Watson slightly edges him out. But the Cowboys, you don't know what you're going to get in Dak. Obviously, he's very good for the culture, but I would argue that Watson is also probably very good for your culture in terms of excellence. So I'm going to swap the two. I think the fit actually works a lot there.
Yeah, I'm not against the swap. I just feel like it's a little weird because I think they're both like on similar skill levels and they do similar things. They're both great. I think the only reason why the Texans would be hesitant is because of Dak Prescott's injury. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I don't see it happening. Also, because they're just two Texas squads there.
Yeah, obviously the Texas swap isn't really necessarily ideal. But what you're going to do is you'll be getting Deshaun Watson out of the East, out of the AFC. You'll move him to the NFC, so you won't have to play him. And you're most likely going to get. I mean, like if you're think about what would happen, it would probably most likely be Nick Cassero and the Houston Texans actually calling up the Cowboys rather than the Cowboys making the offer, because I don't know how much Jerry Jones would be wanting to make that offer. So they would be making that offer, and they would be looking to essentially get the same player, but that actually would like to be in Texas. That's the thing. You're changing the entire culture. I think the Texans would be much better, or not better, but they would be similar to what they are now.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment. But yeah, so Watson's probably gonna be on the move, according to reports, and as we just talked about, there's a lot of good options for him. I think when you have a player of Watson's caliber, he'll fit in just about everywhere. Sticking with the NFL, a lot of moves going on. Head coaching carousel. Me and Curran, we're gonna just talk about all the moves, if we rate them or not. So let's get right into it. The first move that I want to speak on is Urban Meyer to the Jacksonville Jaguars, former Ohio State head coach, and I love the fit. I mean, I think this team, it's got talent. You know, you got young guys like James Robinson and I guess DJ Chark. I don't know if he's that exciting, but there's young guys on that squad. But the most coveted piece, they got Trevor Lawrence. They have the number 1 pick in the draft, and I'm excited to see what Urban Meyer could do with that squad.
So Urban Meyer, yeah. So I mean, it's always a little tricky hiring high profile college guys to be NFL coaches, right? You've seen it work wonders for the Dallas Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson, but you've also seen it worked horribly with Steve Spurrier and Bobby Petrino for the Atlanta Falcons and I forget, I think the Buccaneers. But you know, I like this. I think Urban Meyer is a fairly good head coach. I think he's fairly creative. I think he knows he's been around all these players. So I think in terms of getting out the talent, I think he'll be able to get the talent, especially from some of these Ohio State boys that he may pick up. Urban Meyer is also an incredible recruiter, and the Jaguars have the second most cap space. I think they have $70 million free cap space, so they'll most likely be able to use some of those recruiting skills and assemble a culture and some good free agent pickups. So I kind of like that too.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for both parties involved. And now this next hiring, I wasn't big on when I first heard about it. It is Dan Campbell to the Detroit Lions, but I have something to share with the crowd at home that really made me actually like this signing.
Yes.
And I think he's gonna work out. So
yeah. So today was the Dan Campbell's introductory press conference with the team, and Dan Campbell, you know, in his press conference, similarly to someone like Joe Judge, said this. Paul, play it.
It's going to be built on we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. And so this.
Incredible.
Absolutely inspirational.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that, this is similar to essentially what like Joe Judge said last year for the Giants, but like in a way more extreme way. I think all these head coaches that are like culture guys, they're not necessarily the play callers, but they're like the guys that like instill a sort of culture, talk this, but I've never seen a coach talk this extreme, which is very funny.
Kneecaps will be ripped off. Everything is going to happen to you. If you try to step in front of Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, expect a battle. That's pretty much what he said. And you might die. I'm sorry to bring that part up, but you might die.
I'm sorry, Devontae Adams. Hopefully, Jeff Okudah does not rip your knees off.
Justin Jefferson, watch out.
Hopefully none of that happens.
Next up, the LA Chargers bringing in another LA coach, Brandon Staley from the Rams, former Rams defensive coordinator. And something with me that I really think is with a head coaching hire, it's hard for me to dislike it. I feel like until I see that team in action with their coach, you know, it's hard for me to dislike it. But obviously, the Rams defense was very good this year. And for a Chargers team, a young team with great potential, I think it could be a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily too happy. I mean, I'm not happy. I wouldn't be happy either way. It's not like I'm a Chargers fan. But what I will say is that when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert,
get an offensive guy.
It usually is probably a good idea to get an offensive guy. Defensive guys, we saw this with Anthony Lynn. A lot of these guys are very, very conservative. And when you have a quarterback like Herbert who can like absolutely let the ball rip downfield, you kind of need that kind of offensive man. but I have no doubt that he will be the Rams' defensive. I forget what did you say his name was. I forget what his name was.
Brandon Staley.
Brandon Staley. Sorry. I have no doubt that Brandon Staley will be a good hire. I mean, he learned from the great Wade Phillips, as he was the defensive coordinator before him. So I have no doubt that he'll be a great hire. I just question whether or not you want to get an offensive guy, which, in my opinion, is probably a better idea for Herbert.
Yep. Next hire we already touched on when talking about Deshaun Watson. Robert Saleh. Is it Saleh or Saleh?
Saleh?
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with that. A lot of these new head coaches, I need to get used to their names, by the way. To the Jets, fantastic hire. I'm pretty sure everyone's pretty happy with it. He's a great guy. Even, guys from the 49ers were coming out, letting their voices be heard about what a great coach and guy he is. And I think for a Jets team where you just went through a little Adam Gase fiasco for the last 2 years where everyone's crying to get him fired, I think he should be a good, just rock guy. Like, he's going to be there hopefully for at least maybe 5 to 10 years. That's lucky if you're a Jets head coach to make it that long. I think it's good because they have the second pick in the draft too, and hopefully he could develop some good players there.
Yeah, so I mean, this is essentially just the exact opposite of the Adam Gase hire, right? When you look at what Adam Gase was, Adam Gase didn't necessarily blow you away in an initial press conference. He wasn't necessarily the leader, and he was more of an offensive guy. I mean, obviously, he was the quarterback coach for Peyton Manning, so that's what got him the job, basically. I mean, essentially, but Saleh is essentially the opposite because Saleh is a defensive guy. Saleh is a culture. He's a big personality. So that's going for you. He's probably not going to be afraid to stand up to anyone, and he'll be a man in charge, which is pretty good. I think that's always a good idea to have, especially after a creative play caller didn't work. So I think that's always a pretty good idea. I think his defense should hopefully be much better next year. And I think that if they draft a quarterback at number 2, which they probably should, then I think it'll be a good idea to have the quarterback not have to throw the ball 60 times a game to win.
Makes sense to me. Next hire, Atlanta Falcons bringing in Arthur Smith, former offensive coordinator of the Titans. And I'm a big fan of this hire. I think with the Falcons, obviously what's been apparent for the past couple of years, at least, is that they do have a lot of offensive talent. And once you get a good offensive-minded coach in there to unlock it, it works well. You got young guys like Ridley and veterans like Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. And, Arthur Smith ran a good offense there in Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill looked sharp once he came over to the Titans. Obviously, Derrick Henry is amazing. A.J. Brown. But I think this one's going to work out.
I do too. We saw last time the Falcons hired a good offensive mind at a coordinator or head coach position. Matt Ryan won the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan. You got to give. I think Matt Ryan's a pretty good quarterback, and I think he'll be pretty good with an offensive head coach. Dan Quinn notably was a defensive head coach, and I think that when you have a really good team, I hope that Arthur Smith. I know that they did this a lot, and I know that in the red zone, especially last year, Tennessee was incredible. And I'm pretty sure they were a fairly risky team, which is always good because the Falcons blew a lot of games this year. So if they get conservative and try to hold on to a lead, a lot of the times maybe they lose it rather than driving the point home.
Most recent hire we actually just had coming in a couple minutes ago. Well, not minutes ago, but within the last hour, this hire just happened. Philadelphia Eagles bringing in Nick Sirianni from the Colts. He was the Colts offensive coordinator. And for me, I don't know much about him, so I really can't speak on it that well. But I guess for the Eagles, he's an offensive guy. You got Jalen Hurts in there and Miles Sanders and some young guys there on offense that hopefully he can unlock. And there's not much going well for the NFC East, so maybe Nick will be the guy to bring them to the top.
Yeah, this is probably my least favorite coaching hire. Nick Sirianni is not the play caller on the Colts. It's Frank Reich. Frank Reich is the former Eagles offensive coordinator. So I mean, he's the play caller. So yeah, he probably learned a bit from Reich, and he'll probably be a decent guy. But my issue is that I don't know, like I don't understand it. Why wouldn't you go after? Why wouldn't you say, okay, we're gonna wait, give us some time, Eric Bieniemy, the Kansas City Chiefs. How about we see you guys go through the playoffs, and after the playoffs, after you are eliminated or win the Super Bowl, how about you go after him, or how about you go after Kafka, the passing game coordinator? Now these guys also don't call plays, but they spent longer time as a member of a better organization for a better mind in Andy Reid. So I don't know. It's my least favorite head coach, but he could be okay for all I know. For all I know, he could be the best coach of all time. I don't know.
Yeah, again, with all these guys, there's still a lot to learn. See how they really run a team. And I think right now is the perfect time to bring up the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had two bombshells, or if you want to call them Woj bombs, today in Pittsburgh. The first one being that the Steelers did just sign Dwayne Haskins. I'm a big fan of this signing. I feel like it's a low risk, high reward situation. If you could get, some Ohio State out of Dwayne Haskins, then he could be the next replacement for Big Ben. And obviously he's better than both their backups. And the other bombshell coming out of Pittsburgh, again, related to coaching, Steelers do have a vacancy at offensive coordinator. And Hugh Jackson was just interviewed by the Steelers. I know I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it's an L, and if he comes here, I will support Hugh Jackson with everything he does. But we saw him coach the Cleveland Browns, and it wasn't good. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna if they hire him, what I think they should do is, I think if they're bad again, he should go back into the lake. Hugh Jackson should jump back. Instead of this, he could jump into the, I don't know, the Allegheny River. I think that's how I'm saying it. That Allegheny. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the heck to say.
The three rivers. He's got three choices to jump into.
Yeah, he's got some rivers to jump into if he messes up. On the offensive side of the ball. But we'll talk about Dwayne Haskins for a bit. I mean, he's all right. I watched the Giants kind of beat up on him a bit in his first year, and then in his second year, I mean, he didn't really play much. Obviously, he had the off the field stuff, but I mean, like, I guess there's not really any risk to it, because, like, all right, you signed him for a 1-year deal. There's no like, if he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. He's not your starter. He's not losing you games by sitting on the bench, by potentially learning from Big Ben and being a better quarterback and potentially being the future. I'm not going to call him the future, but I mean, it's a okay move. Whatever, who cares?
Yeah. They have a 38-year-old quarterback that's going to make $40 million next year. So I think it's time to start, looking for some guys. So if you could take a chance on Haskins, it's worth it. But there's actual football being played too. The season's not over yet. NFC and AFC Championship are coming up this weekend. 2 games going on. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Curran picked the Saints to win. Buccaneers are going to be playing against the Packers. And the Bills are going to be playing against the Chiefs. We're going to get right into our picks right here. And I'm going to pick first Buccaneers versus the Packers. I've been saying it since the first episode of playoffs. Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. I love the Buccaneers. I think Tom Brady is Tom Brady. And this is going to be a good showdown. But, yeah, I don't have much to say because I've just been, I've been talking about the Bucs all playoffs. And I am still impressed with what I see from them. So the defense looked very good against the Saints. And if the defense plays that well against Green Bay, then we're going to have a good performance in Tampa.
So the key word you just said is if. The problem is with the Buccaneers is they forced 4 turnovers, which is great. But Aaron Rodgers is also the least turnover-prone quarterback in the NFL history. He's one of the most efficient of all time. He's probably the most talented quarterback of all time, with the exception of my favorite quarterback, Daniel Jones. But no, I'm joking. I'm trolling. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't force his turnovers. And what the thing is, The thing is, most of the points they scored against the Saints were off of turnovers. Now that makes sense because you get shorter field position. But my question is, what's going to happen when the Packers don't turn over the ball? What's going to happen when J.K. Scott buries them deep into their own territory and they have to build up their momentum and slowly drive down the field in a freezing Lambeau field in the middle of winter, in the middle of a Lambeau Sunday or Saturday, and I don't know what day it is. But what happens when that happens? I'm not confident in that. I've got the Packers to win this game. I think the Packers going to the Super Bowl this year.
Keep picking against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I dare you. And that's fine. You can keep doing that. Next game, Buffalo versus the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is his I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Availability, I guess.
Yeah.
Is still not confirmed. I feel like it's pretty likely he's going to be playing. But with that being said, I don't care if he's playing or not. The Buffalo Bills are going to win this football game. Bills Mafia, let's go. Josh Allen, again, has looked sharp all year and in the playoffs, and he's ready to win again and take down the defending champs to go to the Super Bowl and meet up with Tom Brady.
Damn,
Wait, actually, 1 second before I say that, I have to say, if you're Buffalo, you've been waiting all this time having to be Tom Brady's little brother in the division for all these years, and now you get the chance to go beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. You better do it.
Paul, I mean, I'm going to roll with my pick. I think it's a pretty easy. I had the upset before Chad Henne had to come in and win the game. I said that the Buffalo Bills would make the Super Bowl from this. So I think I still think it's possible, and I think my belief is actually even more. It's actually strengthened further, seeing as the Bills. Seeing as the Chiefs are going to have Mahomes. I don't think Mahomes probably will not be 100% healthy. I'm going to guess probably nothing higher than maybe he'll be like 80% healthy. He's suffering a concussion. The concussion protocol usually takes 17 days for most average players. Now, it's been a week. It's going to be he gets a week of getting back into it. So I don't have any confidence that he'll be 100% healthy. I think the Bills can probably rattle him. I know they're in Arrowhead, but I think the Bills rattle him, and I think they get cooking early, and I think they beat the Chiefs.
I was confused there for a minute. It took you a while to get to your pick. I thought you were going to pick the Chiefs. Anyway.
No,
so
I got the
that.
Bills. Let's go Bills.
So you have Packers Bills. I have Buccaneers Bills.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll see if Curran ends up going 0-2 this weekend, which is probably going to happen. And if I go 2-0, or probably 1-1. Anyway, NFL is not the only sport in the world. NBA, there's been some big news recently, something we've been yet to talk about, and that is the Brooklyn Nets going out, completing the big three, bringing in James Harden to the team. And I have a lot to say about this. I'm going to get right into it because when the trade first happened, you had Nets fans and NBA fans everywhere saying why? Because you gave up so much to get James Harden. And originally, again, Nets fans were, I guess, somewhat excited for what the future could bring, but they were also disappointed that they had to give up Karis LeVert and Jared Allen and a bunch of picks. But I said right away, I'm like, they're not going to be that mad when James Harden comes in and scores 30 points every game and goes out and gets triple-doubles, which he's done so far. 2 triple-doubles, 2 30-point games. But I don't think James Harden is a problem at all fitting into this team. That's something that people have been saying is, are this team going to fit together? Is this group of guys going to fit together? And that's not an issue with Kevin Durant. He's done it before in Golden State. James Harden, I think he's acclimated well so far. It's Kyrie Irving. That's the main question mark. The Nets, first of all, without Kyrie Irving, they went out and they had an amazing win over the Bucks in potentially an Eastern Conference Finals preview. And then Kyrie comes back and they lose to the Cavs in double overtime. Unicorn performance from Colin Sexton. But besides that, it's like, I'm pretty sure Trade Kyrie was trending on Twitter today. It's like, do you stick with all three of these guys or do you try to see what you can get for Kyrie? I personally like Kyrie. And it does take big threes and super teams a little bit of time to get going and, mesh together. They have time until the trade deadline, but do you move on from Kyrie Irving? I'm still not decided on that, and I want to hear what you have to say about James Harden and Kyrie and the Nets.
So you don't move on from Kyrie Irving. I'm going to tell you right now, you have Steve Nash as your head coach. Now, Steve Nash, obviously Hall of Fame point guard, obviously one of the best basketball minds of all time. I think that's a pretty easy call for me to make. So when you talk about the fact that they have Harden, they have Kyrie Irving, they have they have Kevin Durant, and they have Steve Nash as the head coach, who will most likely be able to figure everything out. I think give him a year. I think they'll be. I think give him a year.
He's never coached before.
Okay, cool. I don't really care. Steve Nash is one of the best basketball minds. He's one of the best basketball minds in the NBA. So I think if you give Nash enough time, and I think you get Kyrie, Harden, and Durant working together, which they were. I mean, they were clearly playing hard against the Cavs. They just got tired. They just, it's their Kyrie Irving's first game back to basketball. It's Harden's third in a bit of time playing at 100%. So I think if you give them time, I think by next year they're ready. And I think next year they are the favorites to win the NBA championship, and I think they can win it. As for the Rockets and the other teams, now obviously the Rockets, I mean, they got Victor Oladipo from this trade, so they got something. Okay, they give away carousel to the Pacers. I actually would rather have them keep Karis LeVert. I think when you look at their trade, obviously they got a massive hole. But when you compare it to a trade like the Paul George trade, which is basically what I've been comparing it to, seeing as they're both trades for really good players. Now, obviously, Paul George is I almost said Paul George is better. Harden is better than Paul George. And
at the time, Paul George was a top 3 MVP candidate, though, that's a similar boat as James Harden.
All right, fine. So they're both top 3 MVP candidates. I think Harden's better. I think Harden's done it for a long time, and Harden actually won the award. But when you look at this, what they got, I mean, you kind of have to realize that the Rockets didn't do as well as the Thunder did. They didn't. I mean, they got. When you compare the components of the trade, the Rockets got the Thunder got Gallinari and Shai, and they got 5 first-round picks. Now, obviously, they both have, I think, the same amount of first-round picks, but Shai is just the optics are better around him than getting Karis LeVert. I mean, the optics are better around getting Gallinari too than him just alone. So I kind of like the trade. I mean, obviously the picks are a good idea, but the ball is in the Raphael Stone's court. Is he going to be able to draft the right guys? I don't know. Don't ask me.
I have to say, Oladipo did look pretty sharp in his debut with the Rockets. And actually, shout out to James Harden for getting this whole trade thing going, because he might have saved Karis LeVert's life. Karis LeVert is currently out indefinitely. I don't remember exactly what they discovered, but he had some serious medical issues or whatever that they were able to uncover through his physical. And back to the Nets side of things, I think first things first, obviously, you need to see where Kyrie's head is at before you go ahead, because he's been AWOL doing kind of whatever he wants recently. And no offense to Kyrie, he's pretty weird. So you never know what you're going to get with him. And I think you got to make sure that, everything's straight with him. And also, you talking about like maybe next year they'll be able to, be well together and everything. I think the time is now. You got to win this year, because by the time next year rolls around, that's another year of, the Bucks just being able to mesh together a little bit more. Some young up-and-coming teams in the East, another year of Tatum and Brown playing together, ready to go. The Heat have a lot of money they're going to spend in the offseason. I think the best chance for the Nets to win the East is now. And the best chance, this year, the championship, I think they have the same odds of winning it this year as any other year, just because of how good the Lakers are. But I think this year's the year you want to do it. And if you want to do that, you probably would not move on from Kyrie Irving. But with that being said, I think it's going to work out. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't know where I was going.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think that these guys aren't going to regret. I don't think Kyrie, I think Kyrie's like 28. I mean, he's not going to regress yet. And KD and Harden are really, really good. I mean, they're old. They're older, but they're not like old in terms of like NBA player standards. So I mean, I think they can win next year. I don't think they'll regress. I think they'll probably flatline potentially, but they'll grow together, which is all that really matters. So I think they'll win. I think next year is probably the year. I think they can probably win it next year. I don't think their chances decrease. I think their chances increase as they get better together. Also, I've seen a lot of people talk about the defense. When I watched the game last night, they were pretty clearly playing hard defense. I mean, they were contesting they were contesting shots. They were getting in their faces. I mean, you can talk about Colin Sexton having a heroic MJ-like performance, but every shot most of the shots he took were contested. The shot that put them into triple overtime was not a very good shot. He just chucked it up with I think Harden in his face. Obviously, like, I mean, who's going to be able to stop that? Like, a lot of them were flukes. I think if it takes a sublime performance from one of your players, and then your defensive role players like Damian Dotson to drop 20 points a game to beat this team, then I think they have a pretty good shot, because I don't think that's a very sustainable formula for beating the Nets.
Yeah, all good points there. But like we're saying, a lot of stuff going on in sports right now. A lot of stuff will be happening over the next couple weeks. So much to keep your eyes on. Curran, unless you have any final remarks, you could send us off.
Yeah, I mean, why not? The congratulations. DJ LeMahieu got paid. He's a Yankee player now. He got re-signed. Corey Kluber, welcome. Hopefully Luis Castillo comes, but it's looking less and less likely. Paul is probably going to talk about the Mets. Yeah. I'll let him talk about what they did.
You brought up a sport that I just forgot about for a second there. Francisco Lindor. All right. The Mets had some issues. Jared Porter, their general manager, out the door after 37 days. ESPN uncovered some horrific stuff about him. But with that being said, obviously I'm not a supporter of Jared Porter, and I don't agree with what he did. Thank you to Jared Porter for maybe the most successful 37-day general manager period ever, bringing in Francisco Lindor, a superstar player, to the Mets. But I'm excited for the Mets this year, and I think they're going to do great things.
Hopefully they do not do great things, but because I'm a Yankees fan, so I don't want them to do great things.
That's fair.
But, as always, like and subscribe, comment on the YouTube videos, check the YouTube channel out, check the West Esquire Instagram out, check the West Esquire at thewesesquire.com. And yeah, stay safe. Just stay safe, I guess. I don't know.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to stream Lil Sky's new album, Unbothered.
And be a supporter of Dan Campbell like we are.
Who? Oh yes,
Dan Campbell. All in.